Hi, glad all of you are out here and in this room joining us for this presentation. Just to start off, I want to kind of try to lay groundwork for why we're doing this. And one thing you need to know, if you don't already, is that Career and Adult Education in Florida is one of our new WIOA partners. And I can tell you that in the last 2 years, I've learned more about who they are and what they do and how they relate to us potentially than I ever knew before. So the idea that they are somebody else in the Department of Education but doesn't really pertain to us is not true. What they do pertains to us every single day. We are primarily a purchaser of services that they provide, but working more closely on the front end to figure out what those services should be is where we can go now because of WIOA. CAPE certifications is one of the topics that Chancellor Duckworth is going to discuss, and the reason for that is not particularly WIOA related. We will be serving many young people because of WIOA, as you know, but it's more related to the fact that the state legislature is very interested in CAPE certifications, and one of the things that we will need to report on in the future is how many people involved in the VR program have obtained CAPE certifications. We ran those numbers a while ago, and I can tell you that they were very, very low. And I don't know that they're completely accurate, meaning we may have people that got CAPE certifications that we don't know about, but I can tell you that the numbers are probably much lower than they should be. And at the end of this, you will know something that you didn't maybe know before, which is what is a CAPE certification and how could it benefit our customers and what do we have to do with this. So having said all those things, now I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Chancellor Rod Duckworth. I can tell you that he has been Chancellor at Career and Adult Education in Florida since 2012. And prior to that, he held many positions in the states of Washington, Virginia, and Arkansas, his home state, starting as a classroom teacher. And as I said, he is now the Chancellor of Career and Adult Education in Florida. So, Chancellor Duckworth, please.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on Florida Career and Professional Education. The purpose of today's presentation, and I'd like to thank Director McKinley for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about CAPE industry certifications and the CAPE program. I'm quite certain today that I will generate more questions than I will answers today, but in the future I hope to have the opportunity to come back and share with you more detailed information about how we can work together to increase the number of industry certifications that are earned. The second part of today's presentation, I will talk a little bit about some of the history surrounding CAPE industry certifications and the whole CAPE process and how the CAPE process started several years ago. So we will begin the presentation, and you will have an opportunity, as was shared earlier, to ask questions at the end of the presentation this morning. The goal of career and adult education is to really provide all of the skills necessary for a high-skilled workforce and to really grow and diversify Florida's economy. Within our division, within the Division of Career and Adult Education, I've highlighted three major areas that are represented. Career and technical education, which starts in middle school and goes all the way through our Florida college system, including our technical centers and technical colleges. The second large area, which is one of our large WIOA partners, which is adult education, and that includes literacy, the GED, ESOL, and adult high school programs. And the next program is apprenticeship. The apprenticeship program is a program that students enter following high school because they must be at least 18 years of age to enter an apprenticeship program. And we work very closely with business and industry to not only identify possible apprenticeship opportunities, but we also work very closely with business and industry to look for emerging industries where we can start an apprenticeship program. It's all about jobs. And To really begin the presentation and talk a little bit about some of the connections that already exist, as I've stated earlier, within the Department of Education, workforce preparation is our goal. And we're really trying to create a system so that individuals can start in the system as early as their middle school time and move all the way throughout the system and have a number of different opportunities available to them. When we talk about CAPE, and I think it's very important to note this because this is something that I think people get confused on sometimes. Career and professional education is really career and technical education, formerly known as vocational education. In the mid-90s, there was a change to move from vocational education to career and technical education because we felt that career education was a lot broader term, that moving individuals into a career versus a single job was a direction that we wanted to move education, especially in job preparation and career preparation. So that was the reason we moved to career and technical education. Here in Florida, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes when I talk about the history of CAPE, there was a movement to start a certification program and tie industry certifications to the existing educational process, and so they developed the terminology CAPE, Career and Professional Education. But for all practical terms, CAPE is Career and Technical Education. So you may hear around the state when you talk to the high schools, to the middle schools, and I think primarily for the clients that you serve, we're probably talking high school and college and technical center ages. But most of those individuals will refer to CAPE and career and technical education and sometimes use those terms interchangeably. When we look at moving through the system, we want to see results within the system, and we're also very concerned about having individual results for students to have very valuable degrees, certifications that will help them become more employable, and also something that they can have in their tool chest to move forward into a successful career and onto employment. One of the things that I really like about this slide is that we know that there's a number of supportive services that help individuals be successful in career and technical education, in adult education, and also in apprenticeship programs. Adult education, although it is one of the major parts of the system, adult education helps those individuals who may need additional help with basic skills. They may need to obtain their Florida high school diploma, which they can obtain that through the GED. Blind services, providing service for those individuals who may need additional assistance. And of course, Voc Rehab as a partner helping individuals with a various assortment of assistance to help them be successful in our programs. And I think it's important that as we carry the message, not only just for WIOA purposes, but for purposes of educating people on what's available to them and all of the different services to help be successful, this slide really helps to tell the story. When we look at the workforce education delivery system, career and technical education, those three parts that I shared with you earlier in one of the earlier slides, we primarily deliver career and technical education, adult ed, and apprenticeship through our public schools in the school districts. In public schools also include the technical centers and technical colleges that are around the state, and there's 48 of those. Business and industry through the apprenticeship programs, through the Florida college system because we have adult ed programs. We also have career and tech programs that are in the Florida college system. In fact, our division develops the course frameworks for those higher level AS degree areas for the Florida college system. And a lot of people don't know that. They've not made the connection that we have a responsibility for that. We also work with correctional facilities. Part of our federal Perkins dollars that we receive goes to corrections to assist with training, career tech training within correctional facilities. community-based organizations. We work primarily with community-based organizations through adult education, because some of the community-based organizations are able to deliver adult education services in areas that may not necessarily be on a high school campus, may not be on a college campus. So they're really trying to take services to where individuals need those services so that they're convenient to them. And finally, we also work with some private institutions out there who, again, we're trying to find additional ways through adult education to deliver those services to individuals and really take those services so they're most convenient, and there's really we try to take away as many barriers as possible for individuals to receive the services. This is a new slide that was developed a couple of months ago to really talk through the system. We call this our interstate or our pathways to success chart. Basically, when you look at the workforce system and you look at the pathway to a career, there's a number of different on-ramps and off-ramps that a student can take. As I mentioned earlier, these students start in middle school. And a lot of it depends, when we talk about programs and CAE, we're really talking about middle school programs starting in about the 7th grade. And the reason we start 7th grade, a lot of that's driven because of the federal funding that we receive through Perkins, which will not allow us to use those federal funds earlier than 7th grade. So a student enters a program that's been developed by educators within the school system in partnership with industry advisors, looking at local needs, working with local career source boards to develop what types of programs are necessary. And one of the earliest pieces that a student could receive in middle school, and I'm going to give you some definitions, I'm going to use a couple of terms that we're going to define a little bit more later in the presentation, but they have an opportunity to take what we call earlier or lower grade types of certifications called digital tool certifications. These are very basic core industry certifications that a student might take as early as the 7th grade. In other words, these are skills that we feel that a student would need to be able to progress through the educational system and take higher level industry certifications. To give you an example of one of those certifications, Microsoft Word. When we started working with Microsoft Word and the Microsoft suite of Excel and a lot of these programs, PowerPoint, we started off offering these certifications as a senior in high school. And then we found that students were able to grasp the information. They were coming in more savvy in regards to the technology, and we found that students were able to pass Microsoft certifications as early as 7th grade. So we have a number of students who earn industry certifications in the 7th grade. Now, I know some of you are thinking in your mind, why in the world would a student need to earn an industry certification as early as 7th grade? We don't want them to drop out of school and go directly into work. No, that is not the intention. The intent is that the students will learn and master a set of basic technology skills, and they will continue to build on those skills as they progress through the educational system. So, for instance, they may take Microsoft PowerPoint or Word. That's a skill that they can use when writing papers, when doing presentations, all the way through school. And by the time they reach their senior year, they might be taking higher level certifications. So the high school piece. So as students move through and move along the interstate, they go through the high school program. We know that a group of those students may or may not complete high school. So they may exit off the interstate, go on to adult education, obtain their GED, their Florida high school diploma, and then exit, or not exit, but move back onto the interstate and move into maybe a tech center program where they're able to receive some type of certificate, VOC certificate as we call them, a PSAV, post-secondary vocational certificate, maybe an applied technical diploma, what we call our ATD. an industry certification. To give an example, a student might enter a technical center and receive a certification for cybersecurity or maybe welding and move directly into the workforce. The same would be true for apprenticeship. A student might leave high school because they're 18 years of age, go into apprenticeship, go through a paid apprenticeship program, and decide after a few years,
you know, I think I might want some additional education so that I can maybe own my business and take some additional business courses.
So they may get back onto the interstate, just like a tech center student might, or an adult education student might, and move on to the Florida college system, where they may go on to obtain their AA degree or AS degree and work on some additional coursework. There also may be another group of students who may decide that, hey, I've gone through the Florida college system, I've gone through all of these different routes, so now I want to use the 2+2 program and move over to the state university system and go after a 4-year degree or higher. So as you can see, there's a number of different on-ramps and off-ramps there that these students can move into as they're moving through the system, so there's a lot of opportunity available to them. Now, to back up a little bit and give you a little bit of background on CAPE. In 2007, the legislature passed the CAPE Act. And the purpose of this act was really to provide some type of statewide planning partnership between business and education communities. A lot of that was happening within career and technical education, but the CAPE Act really moved to reinforce a lot of the career and technical education pieces that were in place. The whole goal was to not only attract and expand and retain targeted industries, but to help to sustain a strong knowledge-based economy. As part of the CAPE Act, there were several key bullets that are listed in the slide. One was to improve middle and high school academic performance. And one of the slides that I will share with you later in the presentation speaks to that. Provide rigorous and relevant career-themed courses that articulate to post-secondary level credit. So in other words, an opportunity for students to earn college credit while in high school. Support regional and local economic development, working with those local, at the time, workforce boards, now career source boards. And finally, of course, responding to our critical workforce needs and providing the state's residents with a high-wage, high-demand career opportunity. So to very specifically define the CAPE Act of 2007, a key component focused on industry certifications that are critical to Florida's employers, and there was a specific definition given to industry certifications, because you'd have to understand that there were a lot of states looking at industry certifications because of the Federal Perkins Act of 2006, which basically said that you will have a credential at the end of the program, or you will measure credentials and students' attainment of credentials. In this case, industry certifications are used as a voluntary process through which students are assessed by an independent, and these are all key words here, independent third-party certifying entity using predetermined standards of knowledge, skills, and competencies, resulting in the award of a credential. So, put it in very simple terms, we wanted a credential that was recognized by business and industry, that was very portable, so that if a student were to take it in Tallahassee, Florida, they could take that same credential and move to Syracuse, New York, and it'd be recognized by industry in Syracuse or Cheyenne, Wyoming, or somewhere else in the country. So very portable, very much a document that's recognized by industry, a great measure of skills that that student could use to be successful anywhere they might go within the state, or if they happen to leave the state. So that's the thinking behind tying the industry certifications to our career and technical education programs. The Act further required the Department of Education to develop and adopt rules for implementing an industry certification process. Another one of our WIOA partners, the Career Source of Florida, they produce a list of recommended industry certifications. So this is a little bit about how the process works. CareerSource Florida produces a list of recommended certifications that ensure skill proficiency and address emerging labor market and industry needs. Now, this list is published annually in March of each year, and we then take that list, attach it to what we call an industry funding list that goes before our State Board of Education, which then approves that list. And we have actually applied some additional criteria to that list once we get it. The certification must require at least a minimum of 150 hours of instruction. And also it must be achievable, in this case, by a secondary student. I will note that there's also a post-secondary list out there, and I'll talk a little bit more about the post-secondary list in a few minutes. Additionally, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services may also recommend certifications to the list. This was to make sure that we had agricultural certifications represented on the list. Now, I will back up and tell you one of the things that's actually missing from this slide. How does CareerSource come up with the list of certifications? Well, the list of certifications come from the local school districts. So, for example, in Broward County, the Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee would work very closely with business and industry and the local CareerSource Board in identifying needed certifications for their students to be successful, maybe in the Broward County area or in that region of the state. They would then submit those certifications to the CareerSource Board for their approval in addition to the list. And of course, then they would take it through a set of criteria, making sure that it did align with business and industry. So what you will find is that there's a very clear connection between what happens in the local program area and industry needs there, and also moving it forward into the state level for distribution across the state. And that's how we develop our list. Now, when we talk about certifications and we look at the different pathways, I've shared a little bit with you about how that process works. This is a visual that really helps to explain that process in a little bit more detail. Think of the bigger CAPE Industry Certification Funding List, because I will tell you, the CAPE Industry Certification Funding List is the list that school districts pay very close attention to, because this list is the list of certifications they can use not only in their districts, but they also receive funding. The CareerSource Board, as I mentioned earlier, they make recommendations that they send on to the Department of Education. We have the digital tools, which are, again, those elementary level, early middle school types of certifications, and then the farm occupations related certifications that are out there. I'll give you a little bit of history on the agricultural one. When the Department of Labor defined agricultural occupations, they defined agricultural occupations in a very narrow way, so that it only represented some specific farm occupations. For example, some of the lower wage occupations. And so it didn't capture a lot of the high skill, high wage types of agricultural occupations. So it became a challenge to get any industry certifications related to agriculture on the list. So a couple of years ago, agriculture worked very closely with the Department of Education and the Florida legislature to be able to create and submit additional certifications related to agriculture to the list. And so that's the reason why we have another area set up specifically for the agricultural industry, which, as you know, is a big part of the Florida economy. Another big incentive as to why industry certifications and CAPE has been successful in the local school districts is because funding is attached to it. And students enroll in what we call a career-themed course, career and technical education course, and as a part of that course, they may have the opportunity to earn an industry certification. And the reason I say may, Depending on the capacity of a local school district to offer certain industry certifications, for example, the ability to find a teacher who can teach a course that leads to an industry certification, or the ability to have a lab that would allow a student to be able to develop the skills to take an industry cert. They're part of these courses. Well, they will actually receive funding for every student that receives an industry certification. What makes this extremely positive for our local districts, every dollar that's generated by students who earn an industry certification, those dollars, 80% of those dollars are required to go back into the program of record. So if you have a program that's an IT-based program,
and you need additional computers, and you have X number of students earning industry certifications, you then have the ability to buy additional technology for your classroom, whether it's in the form of computers
or other devices that will assist these students in earning the certifications. And so you're able to continually grow your program because of the funding resources that are available. Now, certifications that are earned through dual enrollment, in this case, may not be available for additional FTE, but again, there's other avenues for the districts to be rewarded in that area. For 2014-15, there were amendments to statutes that resulted in several types of fundable certificates, certifications, or courses. Basically, what happens every year, you see the legislature adding, we've seen over the last several years, adding different opportunities for students to earn industry certifications in various areas. This chart, and I won't spend a lot of time on it because it really shares a lot of the information about how our numbers look in regards to certification types that are earned. The largest percentage of certifications that are earned are what we call the CAPE industry certifications, which are really those secondary certifications with no credit. When I say no credit, that means they don't receive college credit. About 51% of those are the certifications that are earned by students. The next large group of those certifications that are earned are the CAPE industry certifications that have 1 to 14 post-secondary credits. So in other words, a student might earn, I think the average is about 3 hours of college credit for certain industry certifications. And that's about 43% of our certifications. CAPE Acceleration. CAPE Acceleration, if many of you have heard of or know about the AP courses that are out there, students have the ability to earn industry certifications in their AP courses. And right now, since that's a very small, you'll see that as a very small percentage because it's a very new program and it's still catching on. And I will tell you the difference in the acceleration program, students who obtain industry certifications in AP courses, these courses are not taught by career and technical education instructors. So we hope as we spend more time with AP teachers that number will continue to grow. And finally, you heard me talk about CAPE digital tools. That, of course, those are the elementary level certifications. And again, that's a very new program over the last 2 to 3 years. And so we're expecting to see future growth in that area. Again, just another chart that talks about certifications that are earned. But the one point that I want to note from this slide is that you will see a lot of technology certifications offered. These, of course, are the digital tool ones. Microsoft Specialist, Word, as I shared with you earlier. Microsoft Specialist, Excel. Believe it or not, students in elementary grades are earning Excel certification earlier and earlier, just because they've mastered those skills earlier in their educational career, and that's exciting. And programming, logic essentials, these are basic certifications that will help students build on to future certifications later on. When you look at the ones that are mostly offered in upper middle grades, Photoshop is one of the certifications. We're actually seeing some numbers drop in this area because, again, students are earning this certification much earlier in their career. The Microsoft bundle, which of course includes now Access, Word, PowerPoint, all of these different areas. That's another big area because we're finding that more and more students are earning that. But then, as you look at some of the other areas, certified nursing assistant is a big industry certification out there because, as you know, we have a huge need for medical professionals in this state. So we're seeing more and more students interested in getting certified nursing assistant certifications while they're still, in some cases, finishing up high school and going into the technical center area. When you look at some of the other areas, like Microsoft Technology Associate, which is the last one listed, that is a very high-level industry certification for Microsoft. But what we believe we will find in future years, as students master skills earlier in their educational career, that they will then move on and take these higher-level certifications further on. The innovation ones, basically, this just talks a little bit about some of the AP courses. For example, AP Microeconomics. Innovation was one of the areas that was identified. AP Studio Art, that's one where we actually paired the Adobe Photoshop with that one. Gold Standard Career Pathways is a term that you're going to hear a little bit about. That's one of the areas where the student earns industry certification. They earn an industry certification, but they also earn the college credit. And we have a pretty large list of those Gold Standard Career Pathway certifications that are available for students.
And all of these certifications are available on the Department of Education website under Career and Technical Education. You can find the expanded list of certifications available.
When we talk post-secondary, there's actually an avenue for students to earn certifications while they're at the technical center, technical college level. Now, it works a little bit different in regards to funding at the tech center post-secondary level. For those of you who may not understand this part of it or realize how this works in Florida, we have a post-secondary component within the school district system, which is really somewhat unique from other states. So our technical centers operate under local school boards within a school district. To give you an example of that for those of you who are in the room locally, Lively Tech Center is actually under Leon County Public Schools. So they report to the Leon County School Board. And for post-secondary purposes, they receive $1,000 per industry certification earned. And again, that money goes directly back into the program to help that program grow. When we have a future conversation and talk a little bit about some connections, one of the areas we might be able to find a very clear connection on increasing the number of certifications might be in this post-secondary area as it relates to our technical centers because of the adult students who are entering the program and earning these types of certifications. So keep that in the back of your mind in regards to a location where we might be able to find some very clear connections. Now, the next 2 or 3 slides that I will share with you basically are examples of what we would call a pathway for students. Remember the interstate from one of the earlier slides? Well, this would be an example of one pathway that a student might follow. And I picked out several different examples, the first one being in agriculture, food, and natural resources. In secondary, the student might be interested in vet assisting, which is a very popular program in the agricultural area. They would take, there's a vet assistant certification that's available to students while in high school, that's available for an additional 3 hours of college credit that they may earn while in high school. So they move through, get their standard diploma, or they may receive their GED depending on the direction they go, on-ramp, off-ramp, remember on that chart. They have articulation credit because of the certification they earned. They may move into the Florida college system and go after a AS degree in vet technology, veterinary technology, and then directly into employment. And I will share with you, there could be another box in there that shows that student going on from the Florida college system through the 2+2 system that I talked about and going into vet school. So the student would have a lot of different options. And one of the things you will notice on here, we want to make sure that all students have access to these programs and that there should be no barriers placed in front of a student. So you will find on these slides that we're now presenting across the state that students with disabilities may receive services from the Division of Blind Services or vocational rehabilitation to be successful in their educational process or occupational endeavors, because we want our school districts, and I think a lot of them know, but sometimes they have to be reminded that these opportunities are available to help our students be more successful moving through the system. Another example here, and I won't go all the way through that because I want to have an opportunity for questions, and I hope that we're receiving a few questions as we're moving along here. But this one for architecture and construction, another popular area. There's a number of certifications available here. Again, you can see there's a number of different ways that a student might move throughout the system. In this case, we picked air conditioning, refrigeration, heating, and technology, which, believe it or not, is not only is a very important part of the economy here in Florida, because if your air conditioner goes out in the state of Florida, you're going to call somebody very quickly. So we need very highly qualified technicians to be able to do that. So in this pathway, a student would be able to earn, again, certifications in high school, move throughout the system, either go to the Florida college system or one of our technical centers and receive additional training and then move on into an employment. Or in this instance, since we use this example, they may graduate from high school and go into an apprenticeship program. And the beauty of an apprenticeship program, and I know parents love to hear this piece, they earn while they learn. So when they go through an apprenticeship program, not only do they not have any student debt, but they also have money in the bank if they save some of their money. But they will actually leave the program much better than they started because they have no financial obligations. And when they leave an apprenticeship program, in many instances, they go directly into the workforce because there's a job already waiting for them. And that's exciting. Business management, management and administration. Of course, you see more of the IT certifications offered here. Again, a lot of different opportunities available. This specific model, we actually built in the state university system for this example, that a student might go into the university system before they enter the employment piece. And also you will notice that we added the military component, that U.S. military and veteran students receive post-secondary credit articulating to college programs through college level examination programs known as the CLEP program and defense activity for non-trad ed support program. So there's opportunities for our veterans and U.S. military to earn credit through our system also. This slide, I just added this slide because there has been a lot of conversation around those technology pathways, because you hear a lot about the technology pathways, but a lot of people don't realize that we have a lot of these technology like network systems, information support services, all are part of career and technical education. Because one of the things that all of you in this room, and I know all of you who are listening to this presentation today, understand that digital and technology skills are basic skills just as reading, writing, and mathematics are and were several years ago. So we are working to try to provide these additional technology skills as a foundational skill as early as possible for all of our students. Health science, moving into that area, I will share with you that health science, again, we know is a very important area for job and career needs in the state of Florida. And this is one of the examples that we love to share because students can earn certifications in high school, go on to a tech center, go to another level where they might get their nursing RN through an AS degree, and then move to the Florida college system, further in the system, and get their bachelor's of nursing. They can receive a bachelor's of nursing not only in the Florida college system, but of course through our university system, and then move into employment. And this is really a great example of a pathway that can continue on and on and on, because there are students who may go on to postgraduate work to get additional work in the in the field of health science, specifically around nursing. Hospitality and tourism. You can't talk Florida without talking hospitality and tourism, and we have a very clear pathway available. In this area, we just specifically picked culinary arts, but there are several other areas that a student could move into to go directly into employment in this area. And finally, for this final slide that I will share with you today, one of the reasons why the legislature, why the various partner groups that we work with across the state are very excited about CAPE. They're very excited about students who are involved in what we call the Career and Professional Academies, the CAPE Academies, which are basically academies that are set up within local schools where a student would learn a specific set of skills. To give you an example, I know in one school district we have a bank that's a real bank that functions as a bank. They do small loans to students within the school, and the students learn everything, a lot of the basic skills about banking while still in high school. So a local partner sets up a bank, with the tellers and everything within a local school district, and the student is able to get hands-on experience and apply those skills they've learned in the classroom. So when you look at the academies and you look at those positives, this chart represents why a lot of individuals are excited about these programs, because we've tracked this for the last several years, and we continue to see that the average grade point average is higher for students who are involved who earn certifications and go through a CAPE Academy. Absenteeism drops, disciplinary actions tend to drop, and dropout rates tend to drop, as I mentioned earlier, because if students are very interested in a program, if they're very interested in school, there's no reason for them to drop out. So a lot of this is basically common sense, that if you get students engaged, get them excited about what's going on, they're more likely to stay in school and to do better because they are in school to gain the information they need to be successful. And we're finding also that these students are taking more and more of those accelerated AP, IB types of courses that are available in the district because, hey, they're still in school and they're realizing I can master a lot of these skills because I passed these certifications early on in my career, my educational career, like middle school. So it's going to be pretty easy for me to go on and take an AP course. So the confidence of these students, we find, is really built up because they've taken some of these types of courses. So it's exciting. Legislators like to see this, but I promise you this is one of the slides that if your parents in the room, you're pretty excited to see this information because you say, hey, there's some real positive things happening in education out there. So with that, that concludes my portion of the presentation. And so I will now turn it over to our moderator this morning, and we'll move from there.